Hi, welcome. This is a quick video on how to optimize a SQL database with Fabrics. The first thing you're going to do is pick the company that you want to optimize a database for. We're going to use our test company. Click on the Assets tab, and then if you scroll down here to the bottom of the menu and click on Databases, it'll bring up your databases. Here we have a SQL database. We're going to click the Edit pen, and then you'll see a number of different optimization sections. So these are feature optimization sections. So the first one we're going to look at is the operating schedule. You can see that it's Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then that's pretty straightforward. Then there's two different types of scaling you can do. To show you feature saving, if I say change this to 8:45 a.m. for the start, and then I move to the next feature section, it will ask me if I want to save those changes when you've changed something. So I click OK, and it now has saved those changes. First scaling is storage scaling. So here you're telling Fabrics, hey, if the amount of storage used up by the database has more than 10% free space, or less than 10% free space, sorry, I want you to scale up the storage. And if it has more than 20% free space, I want you to scale down the storage. These values can be adjusted to anything you want. If you wanted to have, for instance, a good bit more cushion before scaling down, it could be based on the way that your database runs, or if you want to run the database closer to no space before you increase the space, you can set those any way you like. Again, I'm going to click the next section. It's going to ask me if I want to save. Say yes, I do want to save those. And this is vCore scaling. So vCore scaling allows you to set the CPU and memory that you want to use for the scale out and scale in. In this case, you're saying, hey, I don't want this database to scale out, increase its vCores until you get to 70% on the CPU or 80% on memory. And then I don't want you to scale in until you get to 35% on both CPU and memory. You can also then set minimum bumpers. So here's your limits. You can say, hey, that's all fine and good. I want you to go down to a minimum of 1 vCore. In this case, it was set to only be allowed to go to 2 vCores. So what you're telling Fabrics is, hey, I don't care if you get to 2 vCores and it's still performing poorly. I don't want you to increase anymore. And you would see just a message in the logs that said, I've reached my scaling limit for the database. But say, for instance, you're perfectly okay with it going up to 10 vCores, but you needed it to say at a minimum of 4, then you can set your vCore bumpers that way. We're going to leave it at 1. And QuickScale is a feature that you're enabling that basically lets the last 15 minutes of performance override the historical performance. So Fabrics uses machine learning and the day of the week and time of the day to determine when to do your vCore scaling by default. But if you select QuickScale, it will allow Fabrics to override those predictions with the last 15 minutes. When we're done with that section, we click Save. Any updates that happen to it will be seen in the logs. So if you go back to the logs, this is where anything that you need to do or that is done would show up with the scaling. You can see here's an instance of starting Power BI. So if it needed to scale the vCore or needed to scale the storage, the action that shows up related to that would show up here in your logs. And that's how you set scaling and optimization for a database in Fabrics.